Chapter 901, Transplanting Immortal Aperture, Relocating Blessed Land. Chapter 901, Transplanting Immortal Aperture, Relocating Blessed Land. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Fong Yuan started to set up the formation. In accordance with locations indicated on the Gu formation chart, he found the 8 formation cores in star form Blessed Land through star form Land Spirit's guidance. He placed the corresponding immortal Gu there one by one. Star form Blessed Land had few space path Dao marks, the Land Spirit could not teleport. The 8 formation cores were very varied in distance, they were either close by or far away. Fong Yuan spent a lot of time due to this. By the time he finished, he had already spent half a day. After this step, Fong Yuan, who was vigilant and cautious, inspected these 8 formation cores carefully again. After confirming that there were no issues, Fong Yuan returned to his original spot and placed the chosen spinefin star dragonfish into his own immortal aperture. Under his orders, star form Land Spirit opened the Blessed Land's entrance. Fong Yuan walked out into Earth Abyss. The Blessed Land doors were shining with light, but it could only radiate over a small range of land. The inside of Earth Abyss was very dark and silent. This was a deep part of Earth Abyss. Even Ancient Soul Sect, one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent, had not explored this deeply yet. But even though there were no humans here, there were countless hidden desolate beasts, and even ancient desolate beasts. It was very dangerous. There was no time to waste. Fong Yuan let out the spinefin star dragonfish. The spinefin star dragonfish had the size of an ordinary whale, but it looked like a carp. Its body was covered in blue fish scales. There were bones protruding out of its back, along the spine, extending outwards. Fong Yuan placed the 4 immortal Gu on the body of the spinefin star dragonfish in accordance with the smaller Gu formation chart. One was in its mouth, one was in a particular bone on its back, one was in the left eye, and the last one was in its stomach. Even though the spinefin star dragonfish was big, it could not compare to star form Blessed Land. Fong Yuan only took a short while before his arrangements were completed. He inspected it carefully again. Before Fong Yuan confirmed it, the 12 immortal Gu had been put in place properly. He started to scatter countless mortal Gu around the area. There were even 1 or 2 immortal Gu that he tossed out, creating a powerful Gu formation. Next, he was finally at the most crucial moment of relocating the Blessed Land. Fong Yuan followed the method closely. He activated the remaining 4 immortal Gu. Star form Blessed Land's doors slowly closed, vanishing into thin air. Fong Yuan's entire body started to glow in a bright yellow light. Even though the yellow light was bright, it was not painful to look at. It was a very warm color. After 17 breaths of time, the light started to fade. They gathered into Fong Yuan's 2 eyes. Fong Yuan breathed in deeply. He willed. At the next moment, a faint yellow light beam shot out of his right eye, hitting the whale-sized spinefin star dragonfish. The spinefin star dragonfish's body shook, the small Gu formation that was on its body activated. It shined with a red light. Under this red light, the spinefin star dragonfish seemed to be wearing red armor. The entire spinefin star dragonfish was tough like a rock, and did not move, as if it was a statue. Fong Yuan breathed roughly for some time. Next, a yellow light beam shot out of his left eye, directly piercing star form Blessed Land's hidden location. Under the influence of the light pillar, star form Blessed Land was drawn out, turning into a blue light lump. The blue light lump was only the size of a large bean, a sharp contrast to the enormous, whale-like spinefin star dragonfish. The moment that star form Blessed Land was absorbed by this, the green grape immortal essence in Fong Yuan's immortal aperture started to be consumed at a terrifying speed. Fong Yuan's left eye turned with difficulty, moving the yellow light pillar with it. The yellow light pillar began to slowly move while pulling the blue light lump. And that spinefin star dragonfish that was now like a stone statue, also moved along with Fong Yuan's right eye, slowly approaching the Blessed Land. Rumble, the ground tremored and earth shook. Roar, 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 countless ferocious beasts in the darkness roared in panic and fury. A Blessed Land's relocation naturally caused intense turbulence in heaven and earth chi. A powerful earthquake was already forming in the depths of the abyss. Fang Yuan did not care about these trifling details, and poured all his concentration into the spine-fin star dragonfish and star-form blessed land. An enormous boulder crashed down on his head, but was blocked by his prearranged methods. Fang Yuan was confident he could hold on for some time even if desolate beasts attacked. He had created an environment that would not allow any disturbance to him for a while. As if he was moving two large mountains, the two pupils in Fang Yuan's eyes moved slowly. At this moment, both his body and soul were exerting all their strength. Not much time had passed from when the two lights touched each other. However, to Fang Yuan, it was like a year had gone by. The moment when star-form blessed land and the spine-fin star dragonfish touched, Fang Yuan suddenly relaxed, as if he had unloaded an extremely heavy burden. Fang Yuan's carefully arranged immortal Gu formations played a crucial role at this moment. Star-form blessed land was like a wanderer returning home, or a swallow returning to its nest, settling down in the spine-fin star dragonfish's body, turning into an immortal aperture inside it. This was the method Xianxia land spirit used to relocate blessed lands. There must be a desolate beast or ancient desolate beast in which the blessed land would be transplanted as an aperture within it. Afterwards, the desolate beast or ancient desolate beast could bring the immortal aperture wherever they were moved. However, time was very limited in this transferal process. The desolate beast or ancient desolate beast that held the immortal aperture could not take in any other immortal aperture, and also could not use any immortal Gu, otherwise it would influence the workings of the immortal Gu formation on their body. The specific circumstances were, Fang Yuan could not store this spine-fin star dragonfish into his immortal aperture to quickly move it. At the same time, he also could not use any other immortal Gu or immortal killer moves to help it. He could only rely on the spine-fin star dragonfish's own physical strength to float and move to another place. After all, although an immortal aperture was residing inside the spine-fin star dragonfish, it was only barely done with the help of the larger and smaller immortal Gu formations. Even a slight outside influence could cause the Gu formation to collapse, and not only would the relocation of the blessed land fail instantly, the immortal Gu used could also be destroyed. But even such a large disadvantage could not conceal the enormous value of this method. The person who created this relocation method was not Long Hair Ancestor, but was equally famous as Long Hair Ancestor in history. His name was Old Immortal Kong Ju. In the long history of Gu immortals, he was one of the three refinement path supreme grandmasters, a legend of the remote antiquity era. His research and understanding of apertures and immortal apertures surpassed his time. It was his efforts that allowed those of the 10 extreme physiques to advance and become Gu immortals, forming super-grade blessed lands. Old Immortal Kong Ju named the immortal killer move of relocating blessed lands as the immortal aperture transplantation method. Up to this point, this was the immortal killer move with the highest number of core immortal Gu that Fang Yuan had seen. Nevertheless, this immortal killer move with up to 16 core immortal Gu was only an incomplete immortal killer move. Old Immortal Kong Ju's initial thoughts had been to perfectly transplant a Gu immortal's immortal aperture into a desolate beast or ancient desolate beast's body, unlike the current situation, where they could only rely on the two Gu formations and consume a lot of immortal essence to join the two together with difficulty, and just for a while on top of that. After Long Hair Ancestor obtained this inheritance of Old Immortal Kong Ju, he also made many attempts to complete it with Old Immortal Kong Ju's research results, but they all ended up in failure. Under the inspection of the Inkman Wisdom Path Gu Immortal Yen, Long Hair Ancestor discovered this incomplete immortal killer move already had shocking value. Gu immortals could use it to relocate the immortal apertures of dead Gu immortals. Time passed by, bringing great changes to the world. Now, countless years later, Fang Yuan was benefiting from this. Move, go there. Fang Yuan commanded the spine-fin star dragonfish to move. Because of the disadvantages of the immortal aperture transplantation method, the spine-fin star dragonfish's speed was less than half the original speed, and the pressure on the body was huge, as if it was moving with a mountain on its back. This made the distance the blessed land could be relocated every time limited. Xianxia land spirit had moved Xianxia blessed land, but it should not be far away from the previous location. This was also one of the reasons Fang Yuan did not move Hu immortal blessed land. Fortunately, Earth Abyss is an extremely good hidden area, it will be a long while in the future before this layer gets exposed and developed. I can use star form blessed land as a reliable camp to replenish and recuperate. Moreover, I know the disadvantages of the immortal aperture transplantation method, but others don't know. When He Lu Lan does not see star form blessed land, she might think the blessed land was destroyed. After all, the concept of relocating blessed lands has already surpassed the common knowledge of Gu immortals. Like this, Fang Yuan led the spine-fin star dragonfish to move in Earth Abyss. The path he moved on was naturally according to an elaborately drawn map, which had already gone through large numbers of tests and probing. He continued to move deep into Earth Abyss, while avoiding many desolate beasts. In the gaps between the territories of desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts, Fang Yuan slowly moved with the spine-fin star dragonfish. Fang Yuan's destination was 3 layers down from the original location of star form blessed land. However, after going down 2 layers, Fang Yuan's luck was used up as he ran into a desolate beast one-eyed giant ape. The one-eyed ape was extremely vigorous and would often wander around in Earth Abyss. When it discovered the spine-fin star dragonfish, it excitedly started a chase. Fang Yuan began a fierce fight with this one-eyed giant ape, strenuously maintaining the safety of the spine-fin star dragonfish. But in the end, Fang Yuan suffered from having no battlefield killer move, and was unable to effectively restrict the one-eyed giant ape's movement. Eventually, partway to their location, the one-eyed giant ape heavily injured the spine-fin star dragonfish. The spine-fin star dragonfish was extremely weak while carrying the immortal aperture. It was already using all its strength to move and thus did not have any spare energy to strike back. Fang Yuan finally drove away this damned one-eyed giant ape, but the spine-fin star dragonfish had already been injured heavily and could no longer move. Fortunately, the immortal Gu are unharmed. If anything happened to them, wouldn't I have to compensate Xianxia until I'm bankrupt? After Fang Yuan inspected the condition, his heavy mood eased up. This was good fortune within misfortune. Since the situation had already turned this way, Fang Yuan could only choose the second best option, and place star form blessed land nearby. The moment the immortal aperture was removed, the spine-fin star dragonfish completely crumbled, turning into a pool of meat and blood. Even its beast soul had dispersed. This was the necessary sacrifice of the immortal aperture transplantation method, and Fang Yuan had already known this. Even if the spine-fin star dragonfish was not injured, when it reached the destination, it would still die from exhaustion. Star form blessed land was successfully relocated, hidden in a completely new area. Everything was worth it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 902, Heavily Developing Star Form Blessed Land. Chapter 902, Heavily Developing Star Form Blessed Land. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Fang Yuan entered Star Form Blessed Land. Star form blessed lands heaven and earth chi were greatly affected by the relocation. Intense earthquakes occurred in star form blessed land. Only until star form blessed land was placed down and started to absorb the endless amount of earth chi did it stabilize, as the earthquake ceased. At this moment, Fang Yuan looked over it. The vast landscape was filled with cracks and crevices. Dark smoke rose up from burning flames. Fang Yuan's heart sank slightly. He sighed deeply. This was something he had no other way to deal with. Because to transplant the immortal aperture, he could not interrupt the activation of the 2 immortal Gu formations. Thus, even if Fang Yuan had methods involving immortal Gu, he could not use defensive or protection methods on star form blessed land. Xianxia Land's spirit had once told Fang Yuan about this. Xianxia blessed land's losses were far greater than Fang Yuan star form blessed land. Thus, ordinarily, the blessed land would not be relocated. Where is the land spirit? Fang Yuan called out. Star form land spirit's eyes were red. He did not understand why his master wanted to move. Under star form land spirit's guidance, Fang Yuan started inspecting star form blessed land. He first had to inspect star form blessed lands for sources of revenue: the arrow bamboo forest, broken star lake, meteorite pit, and the star fragment grass fields. Broken Star Lake's water was flowing along a huge crack. there were piles of seaweed at the bottom of the lake, there was still some water left inside, it had not dried up completely yet. Landscape as before. Fang Yuan took out the immortal Gu and poured his immortal essence into it. Landscape as before. Immortal Gu gave off a white light, sweeping over the Broken Star Lake. Immediately, the ground below Broken Star Lake mended, the lake water filled up and returned to its original state. But the loss of seaweed was still going to affect the production of Star River Gu for a period of time in the future. There was nothing inside the water, only seaweed and aquatic plants were floating around. The original palace below the lake was completely destroyed. Landscape as before could not restore things like man-made buildings. But the fish groups, insect groups, and Gu groups that were inside this lake did not die from the earthquakes. Fang Yuan had moved them into Hu immortal blessed land long ago. Fang Yuan's immortal aperture was a dead land, living beings could not live inside for long. Afterwards, Fang Yuan went to Arrow Bamboo Forest, Meteorite Pit, and Star Fragment Grass Fields to inspect them. Out of his expectations, Arrow Bamboo Forest was unharmed. Beside the Arrow Bamboo Forest, there were two long cracks, they narrowly grazed the edge of the forest, it was truly a close call. The Arrow Bamboo Forest was the biggest plantation in Star Form Blessed Land. Fang Yuan had already collected most of the resources there and kept them in Hu immortal blessed land. To think that Arrow Bamboo Forest dodged this crisis, it was truly a stroke of good luck. But the Meteorite Pit and the Star Fragment Grass Fields were not so lucky. The Meteorite Pit suffered huge damage, it was nearly unrecognizable. As for the Star Fragment Grass Fields, because of the fire, some had been burned into ashes. At first glance, it was a barren land. Under the effect of landscape as before, the Meteorite Pit was restored to normal, and even the terrain of the Star Fragment Grass Field had been restored. Landscape as before. Immortal Gu is truly useful, with it, my losses shrunk by at least 80%. And since I already moved out most of my resources beforehand, Star Form Blessed Land only suffered a minor loss in the end, even though there was huge destruction that occurred. Fang Yuan thought as he looked around, he used landscape as before to restore the landscape of Star Form Blessed Land, but that expended a lot of green grape immortal essence. He did not repair everything, he left some cracks in the ground as they had been. He had a stroke of inspiration, maybe I can use this chance and turn the cracks in the ground into river channels, creating a network that can spread throughout the entirety of Star Form Blessed Land. But Star Form Blessed Land has a unique terrain, as for how I can make this a reality, I will need to use the light of wisdom and think over it. Next, Fang Yuan used fixed immortal travel and went to Xianxia Land Spirit, returning the immortal Gu back to Xianxia Land Spirit. Xianxia Land Spirit returned the immortal Gu that had been held as collateral to Fang Yuan as he said, if you need to relocate anything else, you can find me again. After all, he had earned a huge sum just now, in a short time, he earned more than 2,000 immortal essence stones. Xianxia Land Spirit continued, if you join my Xianxia sect, and become a supreme elder, in the future when you relocate your blessed land, I can give you a huge discount when borrowing immortal Gu. I will think about it. Fang Yuan replied half-heartedly. He had only wanted to obtain benefits from Xianxia Land Spirit, he did not want to be tied together with these hairy men. Once he joined, he would be unable to go away, he would lose his freedom. He would not make such a stupid decision. Next, Fang Yuan used fixed immortal travel and entered Tai Bai Yunsheng's immortal aperture, returning landscape as before to him. In the immortal aperture, Fang Yuan asked about Eastern Sea's information from Tai Bai Yunsheng. Tai Bai Yunsheng told him that Song Yishir and the others were searching for him all over the place, some people had approached Tai Bai Yunsheng as a result. Looking at the situation, our relationship would be exposed in a short while. Fang Yuan muttered. I suggest that you contact Shark Demon and join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Relying on Zombie Alliance, you will be able to resolve this. Tai Bai Yunsheng said. Fang Yuan was not anxious, his plan was unaffected by external pressure, he shook his head, it is still not time yet, there are still more than 10 days from the next attack on Yulu Blessed Land, let's wait and see. Hu Immortal Blessed Land, tens of days later. Underground Cave. Bathed in the light of wisdom, Fang Yuan opened his eyes, letting out a breath of turbid air. I still failed after all. He muttered, standing up slowly. He was sitting down on a small mushroom stump, he used it as a stool. But such short stumps were very rare now. Right now, the underground cave was a huge Ji forest. These Lingji were very different from before. Not only were they tall and thick, they were red in color. This was because of Hu Immortal Blessed Land's seventh earthly calamity, the blood poison Caria flowers. Because of that opportunity, the ordinary Ji forest became a blood Ji forest. Hu Immortal Blessed Land soil was originally not suited for the growth of Ji forests, but now it has become a blood Ji forest. It could grow very well. But this Ji forest would need 100 or 200 years to expand and growing into a true forest, by creating more space and pushing aside the soil and rocks. Fang Yuan did not have much expectations towards this blood Ji forest. He was not going to invest into it. These last days, Fang Yuan had neither slept nor rested. He was putting in all his effort into developing Star Form Blessed Land. Once his identity was exposed, everyone would know that he was the culprit behind the collapse of 88 True Yang building. Hu Immortal Blessed Land would have to be given up. Star Form Blessed Land would become his only base by then. By that point, if Fang Yuan was still an immortal zombie and had not revived, Star Form Blessed Land would have an even more important role to Fang Yuan, having immense value and use. Thus, Fang Yuan's focus had already shifted from Hu Immortal Blessed Land to Star Form Blessed Land. As for the plan of developing Star Form Blessed Land, Fang Yuan had already thought about it dozens of days ago using the light of wisdom. According to his earlier inspiration, he would build a huge river system in Star Form Blessed Land. The actual plan after deducing it properly was grander. The entire water river system would not only be on the ground, he would even encompass the sky into it. He was going to create a huge three-dimensional river system. This made use of Star Form Blessed Land's unique terrain. Star Form Blessed Land had a depression at the center, while having high altitude around the sides. It resembled the shape of a bowl. If he only built a river system on the ground, all of the water would flow towards the center. But if this was three-dimensional, the water from the center would be drawn into the sky. It would flow towards the edges of the blessed land, and form a grand system for water to flow. As for the way to create rivers in the sky, Fang Yuan had deduced the cheapest and easiest method, that was cloud soil. Cloud soil was also used by Xianxia land spirit to forcefully create a cloud continent in the sky of Xianxia blessed land. Fang Yuan intended to use the cloud soil to create many river channels. Along these rivers, the fertile cloud soil would have countless star fragment grass growing on them. The soil that the star fragment grass grew in was the cloud soil. Star Lord Wanxiang had no choice but to plant them in black soil, as he did not have enough financial ability to bulk purchase cloud soil. But Star Form Blessed Land's environment was very suited for star fragment grass to grow. This caused the growth rates of star fragment grass to be higher in Star Form Blessed Land than Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fang Yuan's plan was beautiful, but reality was cruel. Fang Yuan lacked a huge amount of funds. He had just accumulated 2,000 immortal essence stones, but he had passed them to Xianxia land spirit. Thus, these days, he could only repair the 4 sources of revenue in Star Form Blessed Land. Arrow bamboo forest had grown to its best condition, emitting a light fog under the use of large amounts of moon well water. Meteorite pit and broken star lake had been fully restored. The star fragment grass fields were more troublesome, but after Fang Yuan used the killer move Spring Star Rain several times, they were growing quickly as well. Ever since he obtained the Star Path inheritance and gained Star Shoot Immortal Gu, Spring Star Rain had turned into an immortal killer move. Its effect was dozens of times better than before. As for the dragonfish, eerie fire dragon pythons, regretful spiders, and Dang Hun Mountain inside Hu Immortal Blessed Land, they were not moved over yet. Firstly, he needed to develop the place for now, and finalize a proper water flow system before relocating the dragonfish. Secondly, Star Form Blessed Land was facing its heavenly tribulation soon. Why was Star Lord Wanxiang so anxious to explore Starry Sky Grotto Heaven? It was because the heavenly tribulation was approaching. He was a rank 6 Gu immortal with 1 heavenly tribulation past. He was facing the second one soon. Because he battled with Song Zixing and was gravely injured, he lost confidence in surviving the tribulation. He had to expose the secret of Starry Sky Grotto Heaven and drag Shirley in to explore Starry Sky Grotto Heaven together. Fang Yuan was still hesitating over if he should move all these resources away before the heavenly tribulation struck. Leaving the underground cave, Fang Yuan returned to Dang Hun Palace. Gu Fangzheng, who was held captive all along, seemed to have resigned himself to fate. His eyes were hollow as he sat in the prison cell without moving. Evidently, the truth of Immortal Crane's sect attempting to kill him, and his master Lord Sky Crane trying to possess him were very impactful news towards him. According to his usual habits, Fang Yuan stood before him and said some words. Gu Fangzheng did not move at all, his expression was numb, as if he did not hear a word. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 903, Joining Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Chapter 903, Joining Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Fang Yuan was not anxious. As long as Gu Fangzheng was eating food, it meant that he had the will to live. As for how to change his mindset and alter his perspective, so that Fangzheng would view Fang Yuan more favorably, it was a long process. There was no need to rush. Afterwards, Fang Yuan came to another secret room and inspected Dong Fang Changfan's soul. He had many souls of immortals now. There was Dong Fang Changfan, Featherman Gu Immortal Jingling, Snowy Mountain Shui Song Zi, as well as the Eastern Sea Lone Cultivator Yao Gopai. These last days, other than developing star form Blessed Land, he had been searching these souls. Currently, he had searched all of their souls already. He gained a lot of benefits. But what truly made Fang Yuan crave for more was Dong Fang Changfan's soul. Once in a while, Fang Yuan would search his soul. It was no exception this time. After the soul search, Dong Fang Changfan's soul suddenly spoke. My memories have been read by you countless times, but recently, when you conduct soul searches, you will always check the memories regarding the dismantling of battlefield killer moves in my soul. It seems that you have encountered an inheritance, or have faced a strong foe that requires you to unravel a battlefield killer move. Towards Dong Fang Changfan's words, Fang Yuan was slightly taken aback. He replied frankly, "That's right. These last days, I have been studying your wisdom path inheritance, especially the details about resolving battlefield killer moves. Combined with my experiences and your memories, I will gain a lot of insight each time." Soul searching was like reading a book, but one was reading the memories in the soul instead. But like reading a book, there was no way to memorize every single small detail accurately. One thorough soul search was like reading a book from start to finish. You would learn about the contents of the book only. With constant revision, one would learn in depth about the information, and would obtain more knowledge from it. Dong Fang Changfan's soul smiled. "Have you thought about it? I can actually help you. You're just a wisdom path newbie. No matter how much you revise and read through, the gains that you can have are limited. Meanwhile, my wisdom path attainment is much higher. As long as you give me a body, I will be able to make deductions for you and help you think of solutions. Isn't this a good idea? You can use information path methods to restrict me. I will be your most capable assistant." "That is a good idea indeed." Fang Yuan nodded. He smiled faintly. "But I will not do that. Forget about it. Even after being left with a soul, you are still not giving up. It seems that I have not given you a thorough lesson yet." Fang Yuan's smile turned into a sinister sneer. Dozens of goo worms moved with his will, activating. Ah! Dong Fang Changfan's soul shook intensely. The cell was full of his anguished cries. This punishment lasted for 2 hours. The pain in the soul was much more intense than in the body. Dong Fang Changfan was definitely taught a good lesson. Fang Yuan obviously did not waste time there. He left long ago and went to 2 other secret rooms. In one room, there was the rank 7 Featherman Gu Immortal Zhengling's soul. In the other room, there was Shui Song Zi's soul. Even though these 2 Gu Immortals were not Wisdom Path Gu Immortals during their lives, they had memories regarding battlefield killer moves as well. Even though they did not have wisdom path techniques, one was wind path and the other was snow path, they had their own unique methods to deal with battlefield killer moves. These memories were useful as references for Fang Yuan. What was worth noting was, both their souls had been searched multiple times by Fang Yuan already. From Xianxia's soul, Fang Yuan learned that he had kept a fortune in snowy mountain-blessed land. In his mountain peak, there were a number of snowmen, as well as plants related to snow pines there. But Fang Yuan did not dare to take them. Old ancestor Shui, whose capabilities were unfathomable, Fang Yuan did not have much confidence in vaguely familiar face. He could not tell Fairy Li Shan about Xianxia's death either. Why? Because Fairy Li Shan and Xianxia were both members of Snowy Mountain, they were allies. After learning that Fang Yuan killed Xianxia, even if Fairy Li Shan did not deal with Fang Yuan, she would have to inform old ancestor Shui due to the alliance agreement. Meanwhile, from Zhengling's soul, Fang Yuan also made some gains. He obtained a complete wind path inheritance from Zhengling, as well as the immortal killer move Heavenly Wish, along with precious information regarding the immortal Gu house, Sacred Feather City, and the Green Heaven fragment world that the Feathermen lived in. This world was huge, there was a lot of resources inside. After Fang Yuan learned about it, he almost drooled. Even though he knew about the scenery in the Green Heaven fragment world, such that Fang Yuan could use fixed immortal travel to get there, but since that place was currently occupied by White Sea Shatua and other Gu immortals, it was like a lion's den. Fang Yuan would not take the risk easily. After coming out from the secret room, Fang Yuan received Tai Bai Yunxing's transmission. He said, "I have already met up with Shark Demon and the others." Fang Yuan used fixed immortal travel and teleported into Tai Bai Yunxing's immortal aperture before coming out of it. At the next moment, Xianxia appeared before Shark Demon and the others. "Come, let me introduce you, this is the world-famous Xianxia." Shark Demon laughed as he introduced enthusiastically. Fang Yuan showed a bitter smile. "Lord Shark Demon, please don't make fun of me, sigh." Saying so, tiny explosions occurred over Fang Yuan's body. It was as if firecrackers had been ignited on his body. Fang Yuan's expression did not change, his body shook as hundreds of mortal Gu on his body fell out. None of these mortal Gu survived, some were torn to shreds from this explosion. He, Xianxia, you offended Song clan, this wisdom path mortal killer move cannot conceal your traces. Behind Shark Demon, an elderly Gu immortal spoke. Another skinny middle-aged female Gu immortal had an arrogant expression as she said with disdain, "That's right. Right now, among the three most capable wisdom path Gu immortals in Eastern Sea, one of them is Song clan's Song Jiadan. If you only have these methods, you will be exposed soon." The last person was unfamiliar. He wore a golden robe and had a fat body. He looked like a rich person as he smiled and expressed goodwill towards Fang Yuan. Jia Dan sits in Twin Polar, Huan hides in Nangong. There is also Dragon Head Tortoise, living inside Adversity Sea. This refers to the three best wisdom path experts in Eastern Sea. Among them, Song Jia Dan ranks the highest. He sacrificed himself for his clan and fused himself into the world of Eastern Sea itself. As long as it is within Eastern Sea, he can deduce it accurately. This is very scary. Even if Sir hides in someone's immortal aperture, you will only delay the timing, you will be found eventually. Xianxia nodded, he cupped his fists towards the three Gu immortals. "I have been enlightened, thank you for the information." The mortal Gu that died were his defensive wisdom path methods, to protect him against others' deductions. But the moment Fang Yuan stepped into Eastern Sea, these defensive measures self-detonated. One could see how skilled Song Jia Dan was from this. "Alright, brother Xianxia, let me introduce you." Shark Demon referred to the elderly Gu immortal with his hand. "This is the demonic path Gu immortal ninth ghost finger. He cultivates soul path mainly and wisdom path on the side." Shark Demon shifted to the arrogant middle-aged female Gu immortal. "This is the wisdom path Gu immortal Xia Shu Fang, Master Xia." Finally, he talked about the smiling fat Gu immortal. "This is Big Bag Lu 10xin, he mainly cultivates space path, but he has wisdom path attainment as well. It is my honor to meet all three of you." Fang Yuan cupped his fists again, having a humble attitude. The middle-aged female Gu immortal Xia Shu Fang said coldly, "Meeting you is my misfortune. You offended Song clan, don't think you can escape. Right now, you are still scot-free, that is because Song clan did not go all out to find you, as they are busy fighting for ascending heaven plane and have no time for you. I would advise you to surrender to Song clan. Burdening me is one thing, but if you burden everyone and cause our Lu blessed land invasion to be obstructed, you will be doing everyone a disservice." Her words were very rude. Many Gu immortals heard it and had a change of expression. They were not worried about Xia Shufang's words, instead, they were worried that Xianxia might feel insulted and create a conflict among themselves, creating internal strife. Tai Bai Yunsheng's expression turned grim, while Bo Dan felt secretly joyful seeing that Fang Yuan was insulted. Fang Yuan gave Xia Shufang a look. He thought that this Gu immortal was probably in the righteous path, resulting in such a poor attitude towards himself. Fang Yuan was joyful instead of angry. He continued from her words, "Master Xia is right, Song clan is a super force, they have such great influence, how could I defend against them? Thus, I have decided, Lord Shark Demon, I would like your help in joining Zombie Alliance. Do you think I can avoid this trouble if I join?" Xia Shufang was stunned. In her impression, Northern Plains Gu immortals were very rash and arrogant. Why was he being so mild? Shark Demon was the first to react. He laughed loudly, "Of course you can. Brother Xianxia is a great talent, joining Zombie Alliance is a good idea. I can assure you, you will join Zombie Alliance smoothly. As long as you did not defile Song Yishe, we can back you up in this matter, and support you as we negotiate with Song clan. Then I will thank Lord Shark Demon first." Fang Yuan's face was full of helplessness and bitterness. "Don't worry Lord Shark Demon, I had accidentally entered the bottom of the volcano and saw that fairy Yishe bathing, that was the cause of this crisis." Sigh. Fang Yuan sighed deeply. He showed a look of feeling upset over a great misfortune that he did not intend for. Bo Dan's expression became very dark. Shark Demon laughed loudly, "I believe brother Xianxia, come, let's go and break that fighting soul battlefield." After entering Lu blessed land, everyone entered fighting soul battlefield again. In a dark and gloomy area, dark clouds were looming as a thunderstorm approached, intense winds blew and a sandstorm was blowing. Soul beasts formed in the sandstorm. They grew in numbers and charged towards Fang Yuan and the others without stopping. Fang Yuan, Bo Dan, and the others had started deducing the battlefield the moment they entered. They displayed all their methods and techniques. Because of their earlier probing, they had found out, the key to this round was not traps or difficulty, it was the immense time needed to find all the Gu worms. 7 minutes later, ancient soul beasts would start to form. It would be best if they dismantled this fighting soul battlefield before 7 minutes. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 904, Star Thought Immortal Gu. Chapter 904, Star Thought Immortal Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. This was a race against time. If Shark Demon and the others could not hold off the soul beasts, then this invasion would end in failure again. If the Gu immortals could unravel the battlefield killer move before that, they would obtain victory. Boom! Fang Yuan waved his sleeves. A wisdom path mortal killer move was used. He destroyed 7 to 8 hidden Gu worms. Earlier, when he targeted this fighting soul battlefield killer move, he could only destroy 5 to 6 hidden Gu worms at once. But now, he could destroy 7 to 8. This showed that during this time, he had been hiding in Hu immortal blessed land, practicing and learning to improve his wisdom path techniques. But Fang Yuan was not satisfied. This kind of self-directed learning is too limited in terms of improvement. To increase my rate of deducing this battlefield killer move, I need Immortal Gu. It is a pity, even though I have a wisdom path Immortal Gu, Unravel Mystery, I cannot use it to deal with battlefield killer moves. Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu's effect was to help a Gu immortal think and solve puzzles and mysteries. If the battlefield killer move was treated as a puzzle, then Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu would be very helpful in unraveling battlefield killer moves. But simply Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu alone could not do anything to battlefield killer moves. Fang Yuan used the light of wisdom and intended to use Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu as the core to deduce a simple immortal killer move that could unravel battlefield killer moves. But unfortunately, even though Fang Yuan had been trying hard, up until the point when he had to come to Eastern Sea, he did not succeed. Deducing an immortal killer move was very difficult. Normally speaking, even if Rank 8 Gu Immortals wanted to deduce a brand new immortal killer move, they would need to spend years. And every so often, their foundations would be insufficient. Until their deaths, they would not be able to complete the immortal killer move. Thus, Fang Yuan also had many incomplete immortal killer moves in the inheritances that he had obtained. Even though Fang Yuan's star path attainment level was ordinary, relying on Wisdom Gu, he could completely deduce some incomplete immortal killer moves that resulted in star fire escape and projected star thought. But now, he wanted to deduce a brand new wisdom path killer move without any foundation. This was out of Fang Yuan's abilities. Even with the light of wisdom, his wisdom path attainment level was ordinary. This was his greatest drawback, it was holding him back. Actually, Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu and the unraveling of battlefield killer moves are very closely related. As long as my wisdom path attainment level reaches master level, I will be able to design a new wisdom path immortal killer move specially used to unravel battlefield killer moves. Fang Yuan had estimated this inwardly long ago. But now, even though he felt some regret, he was not anxious at all. Since Shark Demon had promised him publicly to recommend him to Zombie Alliance, there was little chance that he would go back on his words. Even if this attempt to unravel Fighting Soul Battlefield fails, Fang Yuan would not be implicated. Fang Yuan would have achieved his goal, that was to join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. In fact, from another perspective, to express my value to Shark Demon, so that it would benefit me, battlefield killer moves like Fighting Soul Battlefield should take as long to deduce as possible. If he completely deduced these battlefield killer moves, and Yulu Blessed Land was taken down, Fang Yuan would receive little benefits from it. He might as well drag the time out and wait for himself to get stronger, he might get a bigger share of the profits then. Fang Yuan continued to move his hands, he was calm as he observed the situation secretly with his peripheral vision. He did not need to observe Bo Dan, he was doing the same, trying his best to deduce, but he could only destroy one hidden Gu worm at once, he made barely any progress towards this situation. Fang Yuan's focus was on the 3 new Gu Immortals. They had wisdom path techniques in one way or another, they were invited by Shark Demon for this purpose. The one closest to Fang Yuan was the elderly Gu Immortal, Demonic Path Gu Immortal 9th Ghost Finger. Right now, he was lowering his head and looking at his hands. His 10 fingers were intact, but when he moved his fingers rapidly, only 9 fingers could be seen in the silhouettes. His wisdom path inheritance was very unique, the missing finger represented the one in the great Tao that fled, it was the most profound heavenly secret. 9th Ghost Finger moved his fingers, they danced in the air like phantom spirits, he chanted in an unknown language that no one could understand. At the same time, all sorts of mortal Gu flew out of his immortal aperture. These mortal Gu flew into the air and self-detonated, revealing the hidden locations of Gu around the area. Some mortal Gu only destroyed one spot, while some mortal Gu destroyed 7 to 8 hidden Gu worms. On average, his speed was slightly slower than Fang Yuan, but his wisdom path attainment level was definitely higher. Fang Yuan looked at Big Bag Lu Ten Xian. The title of Big Bag was very interesting. Fang Yuan guessed that since he was a Space Path Gu Immortal, did Big Bag mean that he had incredibly skilled storage techniques? But normally speaking, Gu Immortals who mainly cultivate Space Path have a lot of Space Path Tao marks, their immortal aperture would also be much larger than ordinary Gu Immortals' immortal apertures. Right now, Lu Ten Xian's eyes had turned into vertical pupils, they were like cat's eyes as he investigated continuously. His fat hands turned golden and oily, the aura that leaked from it displayed to others that this was a top-tier mortal killer move. Lu Ten Xian first observed for a few breaths of time before striking. He stretched out a golden hand and aimed at one point, pointing a finger. This movement seemed to have expended a lot of his energy. Soon, he was breathing roughly and panting. But after each time he pointed, at the corresponding direction, large numbers of hidden goo worms would be destroyed, turning into golden dust that scattered. Every strike of Lu Tanxian's destroyed 8 hidden goo worms. But his speed was very slow. His attacks needed investigation beforehand, and he had to take several breaths of time to prepare it. It was very exhausting. The more tired he got, the slower his attacks became. Thus, in conclusion, Lu Tanxian was slower than Ninth Ghost Finger. It could be seen that Shark Demon's evaluation was on point. When Shark Demon introduced Lu Tanxian, he said that he had wisdom path attainment. When he introduced Ninth Ghost Finger, he said that he cultivated wisdom path on the side. Meanwhile, Shark Demon also placed much focus on Gu Immortal Xia Shu Fang. As a person mainly cultivating wisdom path, she was undoubtedly the most capable among the three. Fang Yuan looked at Xia Shu Fang next. As expected, Xia Shu Fang stood in the air arrogantly. 2 streams of yellow and white vapor were blowing out of her nose continuously. The yellow and white streams of vapor moved extremely quickly. They moved around in the air, destroying up to 100 hidden mortal goo. After destroying these goo worms, the yellow and white streams became thinner, but when they returned to Xia Shu Fang's nostrils and were breathed out again, they regained their power and become unstoppable again. Heaviness flashed across Fang Yuan's eyes secretly. These 2 streams of yellow and white vapor had incredible power. This was surely an immortal killer move. The power of an immortal killer move was much greater than the mortal killer moves that Fang Yuan had. Fang Yuan sighed to himself internally, my wisdom path attainment level is insufficient, I cannot use Unravel Mystery Immortal Gu properly, so be it, attainment levels can only normally be accumulated through long periods of time. But if I have Star Thought Immortal Gu, according to Dong Fang Chang Fan's Wisdom Path Inheritance, I will be able to use at least 3 Wisdom Path Immortal Killer moves to destroy battlefield killer moves. Among them, 2 are even stronger than this yellow and white vapor, by at least 5 to 6 times. The Wisdom Path Inheritance from Dong Fang Chang Fan was more refined than the one Xia Shu Fang had. Fang Yuan wanted to obtain Star Thought Immortal Gu the most now. On one hand, he had a huge need for Star Thoughts. One Fang Yuan stone nest in Hu Immortal Blessed Land was refining Star Thought Gu all the time now. If he had Star Thought Immortal Gu, he would be able to use this stone nest for the production of Air Sac Gu, increasing its scale and earning more Immortal Essence stones for Fang Yuan. On the other hand, Star Thought Immortal Gu was one of the 2 cores of the Immortal Killer move Star Fog Concealment. Star Fog Concealment had a similar effect to Dark Limit Immortal Gu. It could defend against other people's deductions, making their deductions unclear and inaccurate regarding the truth. Dong Fang Chang Fan's Wisdom Path Inheritance had many top-tier mortal killer moves. Fang Yuan had used them, but facing people like Song Jia Dan, there was no way to defend against his deductions using them. Once Fang Yuan stepped into Eastern Sea, the mortal Gu that he had used instantly self-detonated, the defensive mortal killer moves collapsed in no time. Evidently, if Fang Yuan really became a fugitive in the future and was hunted down by everyone, countless people would be deducing his whereabouts. Then, he would need an immortal killer move to protect himself against others' deductions. It could be seen that mortal killer moves, even if they were top tier, would have no use no matter how many there were. There was a qualitative difference between immortal and mortal. But to refine Star Thought Immortal Gu, there are many difficulties. Firstly, the issue of funding. I have just spent 2,000 Immortal Essence stones, the money I have on hand currently is limited. Even if I have enough to purchase all of the immortal materials, I will need enough time and luck. Also, my success Dao mark was used up already to refine Change Form Immortal Gu. Even if I prepare adequately, if I am unlucky, and encounter the failure rate, I would fail to refine Star Thought Immortal Gu. As for other people refining Star Thought Immortal Gu, the possibility is very small. After all, Dong Fang Chang Fan only self-detonated Star Thought Immortal Gu not too long ago. Time passed, 7 minutes had gone by already. In Fighting Soul Battlefield, ancient soul beasts appeared again. A continuous stream of soul beasts encircled Fang Yuan and the others from all directions. Compared to the dark swamp of soul beasts, Fang Yuan and the others were like sesame seeds on a pancake. However, Shark Demon and the others were not desperate, they had intent to fight and anticipation. That was because Fang Yuan and the others were close to succeeding in dismantling the battlefield killer move. All or nothing. Shark Demon gritted his teeth, he knew that he had to stake it all now. He activated the incomplete profound ice house without hesitation. The incomplete profound ice house took in everyone as it rushed out of the soul beast army by charging forward. It charged unhindered, tearing countless soul beasts to shreds. Even the desolate beast-level soul beasts could not stop the rampaging profound ice house. Bam bam bam. Ancient soul beasts had enough strength, they surrounded profound ice house and attacked ruthlessly. Immortal essence was expended intensely. Shark Demon, Su Bai Man and the others' expressions turned pale. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 905, Pitiful Victory. Chapter 905, Pitiful Victory. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Endure it. Success depends on this, we will win if we endure for just a bit more. In the incomplete profound ice house, everyone was screaming loudly, they lost their composure. Outside the incomplete profound ice house, there were an uncountable number of soul beasts, they were like swamps of ants encircling profound ice house in the middle. How many hidden spots left? Shark Demon shouted. 178. Bo Dan immediately reported. Even though he could not destroy the mortal Gu efficiently, at this point, Fighting Soul Battlefield was close to collapsing, soul beasts were no longer being produced, Bo Dan's investigative methods could cover the entire battlefield. 178. Su Bai Man muttered, her expression was ugly, but the light of hope in her eyes shined brightly. This number of hidden locations seemed easy to deal with. But in fact, it was very difficult. Firstly, the core immortal Gu left were the hardest to deduce and take down. Secondly, the immortals were now inside profound ice house, their methods were restricted, they could not use their methods as freely as before. The immortal Gu house had both offense and defense, as well as movement, it was a war fortress with capabilities in all areas, without any apparent weaknesses. The more Gu immortals inside the immortal Gu house, and the higher their cultivation levels, the more immortal essence they could provide to the immortal Gu house, and the more power the immortal Gu house could unleash. But there was a flaw in this. That was that the Gu immortals could only provide fuel for the immortal Gu house. The immortal Gu house's offense, defense, movement, healing, investigation, and others, were decided based on the immortal Gu house's own immortal Gu and mortal Gu. Thus, Fang Yuan, Xie Shu Fang, and the others' methods were obstructed by the immortal Gu house, they could not be used. From this perspective, ancient battle formations were much better than immortal Gu houses. Even though ancient battle formations had been deemed outdated in history after the emergence of countless immortal Gu houses, facts showed that ancient battle formations still had many advantages. For example, the fighting methods of ancient battle formations were much more flexible than immortal Gu houses. An immortal Gu house's offense, defense, movement, healing, and investigation abilities were all decided by the immortal Gu, they could not be changed, their power only depended on how much immortal essence was used, they were inflexible. But ancient battle formations were different, even though ancient battle formations were also made of Gu formations, the core was the Gu immortals inside. The Gu immortals could use their personal immortal killer moves inside the ancient battle formation. Just like during the defensive battle of Xianxia Blessed Land when Fang Yuan and the Hairy Man Gu immortals used the second best ancient battle formation, Heavenly Giant Solar. This silver giant would change its form depending on what killer moves the Gu immortal used, and the killer move's power would be amplified greatly as well. In all, if it was an ancient battle formation, the immortals might have already destroyed all of the hidden Gu worms and obtained victory. But because this was an immortal Gu house, they were restricted. It was like climbing a mountain, they only had a small flight of stairs in front before they could reach the mountain peak. But just this small distance was an incredible obstacle to them. In the immortal's perception, time seemed to have slowed down, every second felt like years. Are we going to fail again? Su Bai Man muttered in disappointment, she showed a dark and defeated expression. But at this time, Xia Shufang stood up, she said heavily to Shark Demon, I can settle all of the remaining hidden goo worms, but I would need to pay a huge price for my method. If you can give the immortal goo inside to me as compensation, I will help. Shark Demon's expression was ugly, he snorted coldly. Su Bai Man also showed a ruthless and unfriendly gaze. Xia Shufang's actions were likely to be extortion, but at this moment, they had no other ways left. To complete this difficult task, they could only rely on Xia Shufang. But Xia Shufang asked for an immortal goo as compensation. Immortal goo were extremely valuable, she was really asking for an exorbitant price. But after Shark Demon thought about it for a while, he agreed without waiting for too long, you can only take one immortal goo, that is my limit. He had undergone an intense competition in Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance to seize the mission for attacking Yulu Blessed Land. Other than a portion of the benefits that had to be given to Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance, the rest would go to Shark Demon and Su Bai Man. This immortal zombie couple had already invested a huge sum, their foundations were shaken. The immortal goo inside Yulu Blessed Land were their property, right now, Xia Shufang's request was simply digging away at their fortune. But one had to say, Shark Demon really had a grand disposition, he knew how to assess the situation and give up some benefits when necessary. He could actually hold in his anger and agree to Xia Shufang's request. This made Fang Yuan praise him secretly. Xia Shufang saw Shark Demon giving in and did not hesitate, she nodded, smiling, Sir Shark Demon, I am not a greedy person. But one of the immortal goo in the battlefield killer move suits me a lot. I will not dare to ask for more immortal goo, I owe you a favor this time. Go ahead, Master Xia Shufang. Su Bai Man crossed her arms, saying in a cold tone. This immortal goo was not easy to obtain. Everyone watched with anticipation as Xia Shufang's expression turned serious, her aura was growing. At the same time, black and white lights appeared on her body. The black and white light swirled around, forming into a big ball. The ball was made of black, white, and gray, it resembled a map and was showing a lifelike scene of the battlefield. In the map, the incomplete profound ice house was a white dot in the center, surrounded by darkness, they were all soul beasts. The hidden goo worms were around the countless soul beasts, they were shining like stars, having very clear locations. Wisdom Path Immortal Killer Move, Distinct Map. Xia Shufang breathed in deeply, she stretched out her finger and pointed at the map. She used her index finger and thumb to grab onto a hidden spot, by exerting some strength, she squeezed. The immortals only heard a soft cracking sound, like something had shattered. Immediately after, Xia Shufang's fingers grinded, when she took out her hand, the goo worms at the hidden spot were destroyed. At once, the immortals gasped. Xia Shufang's Wisdom Path Killer move could bypass profound ice house and attack the outside world, with such precision. The soul beasts outside could do nothing to stop it, it was incredible. Even Fang Yuan found it eye-opening. This female immortal, Xia Shufang, might have a terrible attitude towards Fang Yuan, but she was called Master Xia by Shark Demon, she truly had some abilities. Even though Fang Yuan had the advantage in terms of a good wisdom path inheritance and could surpass Bo Dan, Lu Ten Xian and Ninth Ghost Finger, against a wisdom path Gu immortal like Xia Shufang, he was lacking by a lot. Eventually, Xia Shufang used this distinct map killer move and destroyed most of the hidden Gu worms, capturing an immortal Gu in the process. When she took out this immortal Gu from distinct map, the other Gu immortals were all shocked. After losing one immortal Gu, Fighting Soul Battlefield broke down rapidly, the remaining immortal Gu disappeared quickly, retreating on their own. Countless soul beasts growled, as they growled, they attacked relentlessly for the final time. Profound Ice House was after all an immortal Gu house. It resisted the Soul Beast's frenzied attacks until the end. Eventually, the Soul Beast army disintegrated along with the battlefield killer move, Shark Demon and the others finally obtained victory. But soon, they fell into another battlefield killer move. Heavens, how many battlefield killer moves are there in this Yulu blessed land? Bo Dan held his head in desperation. After the Fighting Soul battlefield, the Immortals went into another new battlefield killer move, 8 Doors Labyrinth. In this battlefield killer move, the sky and ground were all orange, other than 8 huge doors around them, there was nothing else. But even the best wisdom path Gu Immortal, Xia Shu Fang, showed a difficult expression. She reminded them, be careful. This 8 Doors Labyrinth is used specially to trap enemies, even though it does not have the killing nature of Fighting Soul battlefield, it is harder to deal with. Nobody had any rebuttal. 8 Doors Labyrinth was very famous in history. When Gu Immortals were trapped inside, they would lose their sense of direction to a huge extent. Furthermore, each of these 8 doors would only allow one life form inside. After entering, the door would disappear. That was to say, the 8 doors before Shark Demon and gang meant that they only had 8 chances to explore it. After entering the door, the Gu Immortals would need to fight alone with any help. There were no other Gu Immortals to help them. Rumors says that after entering the door, Gu Immortals will end up in a second area, and make another choice out of 8 doors. In the 8 Doors Labyrinth, there are 8 areas, each area has 8 doors. There is only one correct path however, choosing the wrong path would just be going in circles. This is a classic labyrinth battlefield, it is very powerful at trapping people. Without a wisdom path Gu Immortal skilled at deductions, there is no way to unravel it. Gu Immortals skilled at fighting cannot progress through this, they might even be trapped inside until they die. Xia Shu Fang sighed. Even though she was a wisdom path Gu Immortal, she was not skilled in deductions. The Immortal Killer move distinct map earlier had already exposed her foundation. She was a wisdom path Gu Immortal skilled at investigation and long-ranged attacks, she was more of a battle type. Fang Yuan's wisdom path inheritance was good at deductions, but he did not even have the most basic star thought Immortal Gu. One couldn't cook a meal without the ingredients, this was a very awkward state. This is only the first area, we can still retreat. Xia Shu Fang reminded. In the earlier battlefield killer move, they could probe it. But against 8 Doors Labyrinth, Gu Immortals would be risking their lives to investigate it, they could not even probe it from outside. Yulu Blessed Land's battlefield killer moves are getting harder to deal with. We should be close to completely taking it down. Shark Demon sighed, he wisely chose to retreat. Using Profound Ice House, the Immortals charged out and left Yulu Blessed Land. This time, even though Shark Demon and the others unraveled Fighting Soul battlefield, they paid a huge price, it was a pitiful victory. The one that benefited the most was Xia Shu Fang. She obtained an Immortal Gu as compensation, she was overjoyed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 906, Yellow Spring Sea Area, Undying Kingdom. Chapter 906, Yellow Spring Sea Area, Undying Kingdom. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. They had unraveled Fighting Soul battlefield, but because of the battlefield killer move 8 Doors Labyrinth, Shark Demon and the group had no choice but to temporarily retreat from Yulu Blessed Land. After parting with the other wisdom path Gu Immortals, Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing followed Shark Demon and Su Bai Man to Shark Sea where they were hosted to a banquet. Brother Xianxia, I wonder how much assurance you have in deciphering 8 Doors Labyrinth. In the banquet, Shark Demon asked. Fang Yuan's expression slightly changed as he heavily shook his head, I am ashamed, I don't have the least bit of assurance. Even you don't have any assurance? Su Bai Man said with disappointment. Fang Yuan mumbled, if I could refine a certain wisdom path Immortal Gu, I would have 30% assurance. Unfortunately, although I have been trying with all my efforts to gather the immortal materials, I am still far away from the standard to refine Immortal Gu. Refining Immortal Gu is really hard. Shark Demon's eyes slightly brightened at Fang Yuan's words, but soon dimmed. He had cooperated with Xianxia not only once, and knew ins and outs of Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan indeed lacked wisdom path immortal killer moves. While unraveling the battlefield killer move this time, Shark Demon also learned several things. Big Bag Lu 10 Xian and the demonic path Gu immortal 9th ghost finger could not match Fang Yuan in wisdom path methods. There was no need to even mention Bo Dan. Xia Shu Fang, on the contrary, was truly skilled, far surpassing Fang Yuan, but she was a righteous path Gu immortal, and not to mention that she could not fit in with Shark Demon's group, her appetite was too big. In this trip, Shark Demon and the group did not even get anything, but Xia Shu Fang obtained an immortal Gu, gaining the biggest profit. No matter how open-minded Shark Demon was, he felt extreme loss from losing an immortal Gu. Although they unraveled Fighting Soul Battlefield, they held a poor impression of Xia Shu Fang. It was only that they suppressed it and did not mention it. With Shark Demon's personality, he would get back at her for this, sooner or later. Fang Yuan was observing Shark Demon's expression. Seeing the latter's eyes brighten before dimming, he sighed and said gently, "I won't hide it from the two of you, my wisdom path inheritance is complete. If I have that wisdom path immortal Gu, I can use several powerful immortal killer moves and my strength will definitely rise greatly. Even if I can't match Xia Shu Fang, the gap won't be too big." Shark Demon nodded and talked about other things, not continuing this topic. Fang Yuan had not fully expressed himself before he was interrupted, but how could Shark Demon not understand Fang Yuan's meaning? The hidden implication of Xianxia's words is to make me sponsor him in refining that wisdom path immortal Gu. But I will suffer greatly in this transaction. It is okay if the refinement succeeds, but if it fails, all the investment would be gone to waste. That will just be adding to my misfortunes. Shark Demon pondered, and denied the thought of helping Fang Yuan refine immortal Gu. In fact, the pressure on him recently was huge. To invade Yulu Blessed Land, he and Su Bai Man had invested large amounts of energy and wealth, but up to this point, there were few results. On this attempt too, they had paid quite a lot to invite 3 wisdom path assistants. Even if Shark Demon and Su Bai Man were veteran experts with deep foundations, their accumulation was showing signs of being exhausted right now. Refining immortal Gu might just be sending themselves into a bottomless pit. Unless it was the only choice left, Shark Demon absolutely would not choose this option. Fang Yuan felt slight regret about Shark Demon's stance, but he had already predicted it and did not feel any disappointment. He had used up most of his immortal essence stones to relocate the Blessed Land. With his current financial ability, he required a long time before he could gather enough immortal materials for refining Star Thought immortal Gu. It doesn't matter that Shark Demon did not take the bait, the main thing is still to join Zombie Alliance. Fang Yuan did not forget his current main goal. Shark Demon also wanted Fang Yuan to join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. The reason? Because once Fang Yuan joined Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance, he would be on Shark Demon and Su Bai Man's side. Like this, with Zombie Alliance's alliance restrictions, Shark Demon could more conveniently and more assuredly use Fang Yuan the next time they attacked Yulu Blessed Land. This would be of great help to Shark Demon's present development plan. Helping Xianxia was helping himself, so after the shark fishing banquet, Shark Demon brought Fang Yuan to Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's headquarters. 2 days later, Shark Demon and Fang Yuan were flying quickly. "This is Yellow Spring Sea area." Shark Demon pointed at the sea below, and introduced. In fact, there was no need for his indication, as Fang Yuan was already looking at the special sea below him. The seawater of the Yellow Spring Sea area was yellow in color, like the sea was mixed with dirt and sand. Waves billowed, moving up and down the sea. But in fact, there was no sand floating on the Yellow Spring Sea area. The seawater by itself had a light yellow color. Yellow Spring Sea area is an extremely special sea area. As you get closer to the center of the sea area, you will find there are no living creatures. This is the largest zombie farming area in the 5 regions. Shark Demon introduced. Fang Yuan nodded and used investigative methods. His vision increased sharply, penetrating the sea surface towards the depths. He saw countless skeletons floating inside the sea, large numbers of zombie fish groups, zombie cuttlefish, jellyfish, sea turtles, and so on, moving in the sea, and constantly fighting each other. In the seabed lived grayish-white decomposed corals which gave off intense stenches that pervaded the surrounding seawater. Strands of seaweed, drifting with the water flow, were deathly pale, like nooses used to hang people. Over these 2 days, we used 4 undercurrents, and flew for a day and a half, going past 10 sea areas before we reached this Yellow Spring Sea area where Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's headquarters lies. Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance is indeed the main headquarters of the zombie alliances over the 5 regions, to be able to grasp such a large territory in Eastern Sea. Fong Yuan sincerely exclaimed. Shark Demon laughed heartily. The Zombie Alliance branches in the other 4 regions are weaker, but this here in Eastern Sea is the headquarters of Zombie Alliance. It is powerful and prosperous, and can surpass other super forces. Brother Xianxia, joining this powerful force is a sensible decision. Different from Northern Plains Zombie Alliance's Dark Flow Giant City, Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance possessed a public blessed land which they used as their headquarters. This public blessed land, located in the center of the Yellow Spring Sea area, was known as the Undying Kingdom in the world of Eastern Sea Gu immortals. Under Shark Demon's guidance, Fong Yuan smoothly entered Undying Kingdom Blessed Land. Unlike Fong Yuan's estimation, Undying Kingdom Blessed Land was a scene full of life, filled with the twittering of birds and fragrance of flowers. This formed a stark contrast with the death energy and putrefaction of immortal zombies. Since immortal zombies are already among the living dead, their immortal apertures turns into dead lands. How could you raise such a large public blessed land? Could it be from the blessed lands of living Gu immortals members of Zombie Alliance? Fong Yuan was puzzled. Shark Demon laughed. Xianxia, you can be at ease. Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance has never forcibly demanded any living Gu immortal that wants to join Zombie Alliance to offer a part of their immortal aperture. Naturally, Zombie Alliance encourages you to offer part of your blessed land by providing large amounts of rewards. You will see this once you look at the assignments in the inner hall. Most of the Undying Kingdom blessed land still came from immortal zombies. Or to put it more accurately, it came from those old Gu immortals whose lifespan is ending and are planning to turn into immortal zombies to prolong their lives, or for various other reasons. Do you know why this blessed land is called Undying Kingdom? It is because Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance has unique methods to merge pieces of blessed lands to preserve and maintain their vitality. Fong Yuan's eyes brightened, showing an extremely interested expression. Shark Demon was observing his expression and laughed. Xianxia, are you also interested in this method? He, that's right. Our Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance has already gained some success from countless predecessor studies and accumulations on how to maintain the vitality of the immortal aperture while not causing any change to the immortal zombie body. Fong Yuan's heart thumped loudly. He had always been thinking of how to revive and get rid of his immortal zombie body. Why? It was because an immortal zombie's immortal aperture was a dead land and had no potential to progress in cultivation. However, now, as Fong Yuan heard Shark Demon's words, his thoughts towards reviving had another change. The reason I am trying to be free of an immortal zombie body and revive is for my immortal aperture to be full of life and to progress in cultivation. But if I could truly maintain the vitality of the immortal aperture as an immortal zombie, and have the possibility to improve, then wouldn't it be making the best of both worlds? To be an immortal zombie was to be among the living dead with no limit to lifespan, and could be considered as another form of longevity. Fong Yuan was using this advantage to continuously step into the wisdom light halo, greatly improving his capabilities. But if Fong Yuan revived into a living person, his lifespan would sharply reduce under the light of wisdom and he would only be able to use wisdom Gu for a number of times. The immortal zombie body had advantages and disadvantages. But even if Fong Yuan had wisdom Gu, the disadvantages still outweighed the advantages. Thus, Fong Yuan had been looking for a way to revive all along. If I can truly maintain my immortal zombie body and still revive my immortal aperture to advance my cultivation, this would be the best option for me. But right now, it seems that although Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance has made remarkable achievements in this aspect, they are still a great distance from perfecting it. If they truly had this method, Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance would already have been dominating Eastern Sea. The 5 regions would also not have the current structure. After Fang Yuan calmed down, he speculated the truths of Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. All humans are mortal, they will have a day where their lifespan ends. Brother Xianxia, after you join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance, you can contribute to the alliance and use these contributions to exchange for this research result. Shark Demon smiled as he patted Fang Yuan's shoulder. Fang Yuan nodded with a fervent expression on his face, but his mind was calm and knew Shark Demon was simply trying to entice him. Fang Yuan had joined Northern Plains Zombie Alliance and already understood that to exchange for such a level of research results, the contribution to the alliance must be extremely big. Shark Demon brought Fang Yuan to the center of the Undying Kingdom. Over there existed a mountain range carved from skeletons, and on the tens of mountains lay tens of palaces or halls. Shark Demon led Fang Yuan to a hall. After a long while, Fang Yuan and Shark Demon walked out of the hall. Fang Yuan now had an identity token and also information path Mortal Gu used to transmit all sorts of information to and from Zombie Alliance. With Shark Demon's guidance, Fang Yuan smoothly became a member of Zombie Alliance. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 907, Interacting with Song Clan. Chapter 907, Interacting with Song Clan. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Compared to the first time when Fang Yuan joined Northern Plains Zombie Alliance, it was much easier this time to join Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Originally, Fang Yuan was afraid that his identity would get exposed. After all, there were several rank 8 immortal zombies guarding Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Because of this, Fang Yuan had used the light of wisdom in Hu Immortal Blessed Land and expended a large number of star thoughts to fuse Star Mark Immortal Gu into the killer move Vaguely Familiar Face. With each strength, change form, and Star Mark, 3 Immortal Gu as the cores, it was much more realistic when Fang Yuan transformed into a Star Path Gu Immortal or a Star Path Desolate Beast. But this time, when he joined Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance, Fang Yuan did not see a single rank 8 Gu Immortal. Even the inspection towards his Xianxia identity was only a formality. The reason for this, other than the busy schedule of rank 8 Gu Immortals, should be that Shark Demon has a high status in Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. Living Gu Immortals cannot become higher-ups of Zombie Alliance. The reason should be because Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance has a huge force, it has enough confidence and foundation. Fang Yuan analyzed secretly. 7 days later. BC. Countless bee groups emerged from the water, landing on the boat flowers floating on the sea. During May in Eastern Sea, the surface of BC would have ripples that carried countless boat flowers that floated over. These flowers were in vibrant colors, they were as large as small boats, they were like scrolls that spread out in the sea of flowers. BC was a sea area that was connected to Flower Sea. There were large numbers of water bees living in BC. This special type of bee could only fly temporarily, they were more skilled at swimming in the sea freely. During May each year, countless boat flowers would flow along with the waves, arriving at BC area. It was the only opportunity for the water bees to collect nectar. In the air of this sea, Fang Yuan, Shark Demon and the others got into a formation, as they underwent an intense negotiation with Song Clan's Gu Immortals. Eventually, after 30 minutes, the two sides came to an agreement after coming to terms. Song Yishir and the others no longer pursued Xianxia's wrongdoings. Even though Xianxia did not do it on purpose, it was still a mistake. Not only did he have to apologize, he even had to compensate Song Yishir 600 Immortal Essence Stones. Xianxia could not pay everything in one go, so he could have 6 installments for it. He could pay 100 Immortal Essence Stones first, followed by 120 on the second installment, and 140 Immortal Essence Stones on the third. According to the agreement, if he were to pay in batches, Fang Yuan would definitely make greater losses. Thus, after they came to an agreement, Fang Yuan borrowed a sum of Immortal Essence Stones from Tai Bai Yunsheng and Shark Demon, getting a total of 600 and passing it to Song Yishir. Song Yishir's expression was dark. She received these Immortal Essence Stones as she stared at Fang Yuan angrily. She said coldly, "Apologize." Fang Yuan was a person who could give in if needed to. He smiled bitterly and apologized earnestly. I did not intend to offend Fairy Yisher, to have angered a beauty. I truly deserve death, please forgive me. Then why don't you go and die? Song Yisher interjected. Fang Yuan smiled bitterly. If I had seen Fairy Yisher's body fully, I would deserve to die 1,000 deaths. But Fairy should know, the mist in the hot spring is thick. You also used an isolation immortal killer move. How could I see anything? Song Yisher snorted. She was extremely clear of the situation then. She had no defenses set up at the bottom of the volcano. How could she have any immortal killer move? Even if there was mist, Song Yisher had gotten rid of them in advance. She did not like to have her vision obstructed. But Song Yisher did not argue against Fang Yuan's bullshit. Even if this lecherous and shameless old man had seen her entire body, Song Yisher had to deny it and refuse to acknowledge it. The two Gu immortals from Song clan had a dazed expression. They even secretly pitied this Xianxia. Fang Yuan had explained it clearly. The truth was, after this matter was exposed, Song clan had inspected Li clan village thoroughly. This undercurrent had only been formed in the last few years. And because Song Yisher did not inspect the bottom of her volcano clearly, such a loophole was formed. Xianxia only took a look, and because of the thick mist, he could not see anything, but he had to compensate 600 immortal essence stones. This was simply too much of a price to pay. In the end, it was all because Song clan was a super force with a large foundation. If Xianxia offended anyone else, it would have been fine, but he actually looked at Song Yisher. Even though she herself was not an issue, she was backed by the first supreme elder of Song clan, Song Chi Yuan. If not for Shark Demon negotiating in this matter on behalf of Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance, if not for Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance being stronger than Song clan, Fang Yuan would not have been able to pay merely 600 immortal essence stones to settle this matter. Xianxia, even though this matter is over, I don't want to see you appear in front of me ever again. Song Yisher said harshly before flying away. The other two Gu immortals from Song clan had a milder attitude. They cupped their fists politely. Lord Shark Demon, Lady Su Bai Man, farewell. Take care. Shark Demon replied. At this point, the incident was resolved. Shark Demon invited Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng to Shark Sea again as guests. But Fang Yuan rejected him. He told Shark Demon that he wanted to see if there were any lucrative missions in Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance that could make use of his expertise, in order to earn immortal essence stones and settle his debt. Shark Demon sensed Fang Yuan's dejection and consoled him, saying that Zombie Alliance had a loose structure and would not restrict his freedom. Fang Yuan's acting was on point. He made Shark Demon believe that he was really a lone cultivator that was very bent on having freedom. Since Fang Yuan rejected them, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man did not force him. This couple also needed time to prepare for the next invasion of Yu Lu Blessed Land. After parting with Shark Demon, Fang Yuan actually took some deduction missions from Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. He was a vigilant person. He had to finish the act. He would not leave flaws in such details. Fang Yuan had a mission token, and an information path Mortal Gu for communication. It was easy to accept missions. He did not need to head to Undying Kingdom Blessed Land personally. In fact, Fang Yuan did not intend to enter Undying Kingdom Blessed Land personally ever again. After all, there were rank 8 immortal zombies staying on guard there, against such great experts. Even though Fang Yuan had the killer move Vaguely Familiar Face, he was not confident in it. Even though I spent 600 immortal essence stones, as long as I can get into Northern Plains Zombie Alliance successfully, it will be worth it. Now, I have to wait for Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance to release some missions regarding Northern Plains. For example, information collecting in Northern Plains, or a mission to inspect the Northern Plains branch of Zombie Alliance. Fang Yuan planned. Fang Yuan's plan was going very smoothly. At this point, he just needed to wait. Next, Fang Yuan used fixed immortal travel and returned to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. He and Tai Bai Yunsheng parted ways. He used landscape as before to pave the way and make friends in Eastern Sea's Gu Immortal World. Using the light of wisdom, Fang Yuan spent a short amount of time to finish all of the deduction missions that he had taken from Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. If it was in the past, these deduction missions would have taken him much of the month, but now Fang Yuan only used several days. Fang Yuan was gradually feeling his wisdom path attainment increasing. In the 500 years of his previous life, he had undergone turmoil, torture, glory, falling from grace. All of these had turned him into a strategist. He was adept at plotting against people. This made Fang Yuan very compatible with the cultivation of wisdom path. Furthermore, with a high-quality wisdom path inheritance, and the rank 9 wisdom Gu, could Fang Yuan's wisdom path not improve drastically? After completing these missions, Fang Yuan did not turn them in. This speed was too shocking. It was not on the level of attainment that he had revealed to them. As for the immortal essence stones that Fang Yuan owed Tai by Yunsheng and Shark Demon, he was not worried. Fang Yuan could choose not to pay back the debt to Tai by Yunsheng. As for Shark Demon, he could return it in a few days' time. Daoist Gu had greater demand than supply. It was still selling like hot cakes. His other businesses were also progressing smoothly. Even though he had caused the 4 sources of revenue in star form blessed land to be damaged when he relocated it, Fang Yuan's monthly profits still reached 1,000 immortal essence stones. But in spite of this, Fang Yuan still lacked money. Be it the reform in star form blessed land, or the refinement of star thought immortal Gu, they needed funds, huge amounts of funds. Other than that, there was also the feeding of immortal Gu. Fang Yuan needed to feed the large number of immortal Gu that he had. If they died from hunger, his loss would be too great. Finding lifespan Gu, re-educating Fang Zheng, interrogating the captives, building the 4th Fang Yuan stone nest, improving his immortal killer moves, learning new wisdom path techniques for the next invasion of Yu Lu blessed land, buying Gu worms, buying strength path desolate beasts and desolate plants, buying the experience and knowledge of nurturing hairy men, investigating the spring dream fruit tree. All of these matters were complicated. Fang Yuan needed to settle them. Even though the immortal zombie body did not require the rest ordinary humans needed, Fang Yuan still felt that he had insufficient time. Fang Yuan understood his own predicament clearly. One day, the fact that he was the culprit behind the collapse of 88 Truyang building would be exposed. He had to use this period of time to grow as much as he could, to get rid of the weaknesses that he had. Fang Yuan would love to split up his time, or even split himself into 2 and work. While he was busy with his tasks, Fang Yuan also observed the situation in the outside world. He put less focus on Western Desert and Southern Border. Central Continent was still being affected by the Refinement Path Convention's lingering effect. As for Northern Plains, after old ancestor Shui who defeated Yao Huang and Heavenly Lord Bai Zhu, there appeared to be peace and quiet. But Fang Yuan had joined the battle to defend Langya. He knew that old Lord Qin Yang and the other Central Continent investigators were here. Thus, even though Northern Plains seemed calm, Fang Yuan could feel the intense undercurrent stirring in the dark. As for Eastern Sea, the current most popular news was about Song Clan and other super forces fighting for the control of Ascending Heaven Plain. A few days later. Western Desert. Fang Yuan changed his appearance and did a transaction with Shao Clan's Gu Immortal. These are the goods this time, check them. Fang Yuan took out the regretful spiders. This time, the Shao Clan Gu Immortal was Shao Shirang. He had a stable personality and was quite wise. He was known as Shao Clan's brains and brawn duo along with Shao Hu Qi. Shao Shirang inspected it and nodded in satisfaction. There are no issues, take this. He tossed a sum of immortal essence stones towards Fang Yuan. But now was different. Other than immortal essence stones, there was also a token, and an information path mortal Gu. This was Shao Clan's transaction token. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 908, Opportunity After Causing Chaos. Chapter 908, Opportunity After Causing Chaos. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. It has been a very good experience doing business with you. Our Shao Clan hopes to continue the transactions of regretful spiders for as long as possible. The token in your hand is Shao Clan's transaction token. Sir, with this token, you are now Shao Clan's trading partner and can enjoy a lot of preferential policies. The details are recorded in the information path Mortal Gu. Naturally, you can refuse this token as well. Xiao Shi Rang said. Fang Yuan accepted this token rather happily. In fact, he was trading with Shao Clan not only to earn immortal essence stones from selling regretful spiders to Shao Clan, but also for this transaction token. Among the 5 regions, Western Desert was the most developed in commerce. Every superforce would issue their respective transaction token. But Shao Clan's transaction token was the one with the most value. The reason was Shao Clan and Tian Clan engaged in business the most among all the super forces in Western Desert, with the highest numbers of trading partners. Fang Yuan wanted to enter Western Desert's market, and it could be easily done with Shao Clan's transaction token, and he could also get along well with other trading partners of Shao Clan. Naturally, this had its demerits as well. Shao Clan and Tian Clan were the biggest competitors. Accepting Shao Clan's transaction token meant being close to Shao Clan. As such, it would be difficult for Fang Yuan to do business with Tian Clan and Gu Immortals who possessed Tian Clan's transaction token. With this transaction token, I can officially engage in the trade of dragonfish and eerie fire dragon pythons. My profit every month will pass 1,000 immortal essence stones. When I restore other resources, my earnings every month will be close to 2,000. Fang Yuan did not conceal his joy, accepting this token with a smile. Xiao Shi Rang also smiled. As far as Xiao Shi Rang was concerned, Fang Yuan was extremely mysterious. Ever since Fang Yuan appeared, Shao Clan had repeatedly undertaken investigations, but could not find out Fang Yuan's identity. However, Fang Yuan did not hesitate at all when accepting Shao Clan's transaction token. This action meant being closer to Shao Clan, and Xiao Shi Rang naturally expressed more goodwill. With the transaction token, Fang Yuan started roaming around Western Desert's Gu immortal world for the next few days. The path was clear with the help of transaction token. Even if it was the first meeting, Fang Yuan was able to smoothly make several deals involving dragonfish and eerie fire dragon pythons. Most of these deals were short-term transactions, and only 1 or 2 were long-term deals. But Fang Yuan believed that as time went on and the number of transactions increased, these long-term deals would keep on increasing in number and become more stable. With a joyous mood, Fang Yuan left Western Desert. But when he stepped into Hu immortal blessed land, he received shocking information. What? Xianxia actually flattened that island where Li Clan village lived, in a fit of anger? Originally, the competition for ascending Heaven Plane had gotten more intense. At first, it was only 3 clans fighting for dominance, but when the situation turned into a stalemate, many other forces and Gu immortals joined in, looking to get some benefits. During this course of events, Xianxia ran into a female demonic path Gu immortal, 7 Seas Snake Woman, who ridiculed and slandered her, saying how her body was only worth 600 immortal essence stones. Xianxia's mood sank to the depths, and after returning, in a fit of anger, she went to that nameless island and massacred all the mortals and beasts on the island. She then caused a tsunami and submerged the whole island repeatedly 5 or 6 times. Naturally, no one on this nameless island survived. To others, this was not a matter worth mentioning, thus Fang Yuan's shock would be strange from most people's perspective. Now what happens to Li Xiaoyao? Originally, Xianxia and Li Xiaoyao were a famous couple, but now because of me, Xianxia massacred all of Li Xiaoyao's ancestors. Isn't that like killing Li Xiaoyao? The prominent and powerful Li Xiaoyao from his previous life had no chance to take the limelight in history now. Such a pity. I had intended to connect luck with Li Xiaoyao in the future. He was also a rather lucky person. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly. Eastern Sea's future structure had changed considerably because of him. And how far this change would spread to affect other matters, Fang Yuan also did not know. Several days later, an event occurred that shocked Fang Yuan even more. What? Starry sky grotto heaven shattered and countless grotto heaven fragments are falling down like meteors, causing forces of all sizes and countless Gu immortals to fight for them. Fang Yuan was speechless. According to his previous life's memories, the event of starry sky grotto heaven shattering and falling down was supposed to happen hundreds of years later. How could it have happened so early in this life? Is it because of me? I picked up benefits from Star Lord Wanxiang, immortal Monkey King Shirley, and led to immortal zombie 7-star child to awaken from the dream realm, causing Shirley to be trapped in the grotto heaven and having no choice but to request support from Combat Immortal Sect. 7-star child had to fight against Combat Immortal Sect, but despite having the territorial advantage, Combat Immortal Sect is a colossal force which made 7-star child feel the situation was far from good, deciding to detonate Starry Sky Grotto Heaven and drag them down with him. Fang Yuan's speculation was completely right. In fact, it had happened like that. In Fang Yuan's previous life, 7-star child was trapped in star constellation Immortal Venerable's dream realm for a long time without waking up. Although Star Lord Wanxiang died, Shirley inherited this fortune. He did not report to the sect and secretly sneaked in every time the crack opened, and plundered the resources wantonly. However, in this life, after Fang Yuan awakened 7-star child, Shirley was faced with disaster, having to run around miserably from 7-star child. He had no choice but to give up on maintaining his face, seeking help from Combat Immortal Sect. In the end, Combat Immortal Sect could not forcibly suppress 7-star child. Since I cannot have it, you can forget about obtaining it. With this thought in mind, 7-star child detonated Starry Sky Grotto Heaven and decisively stopped contesting with Combat Immortal Sect's immortals. Thus, the Grotto Heaven's fragments fell down early to Central Continent's land by 200 to 300 years. Fang Yuan was left lost for words after he heard this news. Northern Plains has already been turned into a mess by me, with the collapse of 88 True Yang building and the destruction of Imperial Court Blessed Land. Eastern Sea has also changed, Li Xiaoyao is no more. Now, Central Continent is also experiencing a drastic change. Starry Sky Grotto Heaven has collapsed before its time. According to this trend, Central Continent and Eastern Sea are going to change beyond all recognition. Right now, the whole of Central Continent was shaken because of this event. Countless Gu immortals, Gu masters, super forces and other forces of all sizes were flocking towards the Grotto Heaven's fragment worlds. What Central Continent Refinement Path Convention? It was all thrown to the back of their minds. Fang Yuan could not help but smile bitterly at this. Starry Sky Grotto Heaven had broken up at a very bad time. If it had collapsed 200 or 300 years later, Fang Yuan could have gained considerable benefits. Because that time was when the 5 regions' chaotic war began and dream realms manifested externally. Champions and warriors emerged endlessly. The old super forces would be busy with their own affairs. It was most beneficial to lone cultivators like Fang Yuan. However, at present, the 5 regions' chaotic war was yet to start. Central Continent was dominated by Heavenly Court, and the 10 great ancient sects firmly controlled the whole of Central Continent. Fang Yuan could foresee that this initial chaos would only last for a short period of time before the 10 great ancient sects took control of the whole situation. The true beneficiaries would no doubt be them and Heavenly Court behind them. The development of the events went according to Fang Yuan's prediction. The change in the situation was even quicker than Fang Yuan's estimation. Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects stabilized the situation, quickly making an internal agreement and expelling all the other forces and Gu immortals. Fang Yuan got a deep impression of the colossal forces that were the 10 great ancient sects. It is quite the pity regarding Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, 7-star child, and that dream realm. Fang Yuan sighed with regret. Starry Sky Grotto Heaven was one of his long-term plans, but now with this unforeseen event, this enormous benefit was missed by him. However, the next change in events was beyond Fang Yuan's expectations. A letter from He Feng Yang came to Fang Yuan through Whole Earth Gu. In the letter, He Feng Yang, on behalf of Immortal Crane Sect, invited Fang Yuan to explore a fragment world of Starry Sky Grotto Heaven. Could it be? Fang Yuan's gaze brightened sharply. The thought in his mind made him stand up in excitement, and laugh loudly. After laughing, Fang Yuan mumbled to himself, I cannot be careless. Although the likelihood of it being a trap is rather small, it is better to first investigate before replying. 2 days later, Fang Yuan came to a mountain valley in Central Continent. This nameless valley was extremely lacking in supplies and in no way was remarkable. but because a large fragment of starry sky grotto heaven had fallen here, this valley was already surrounded by the allied forces of the 10 great ancient sects, making 1,000 li around it a forbidden zone. If other Gu immortals stepped within this range, they would be killed without mercy. Fang Yuan also did not dare to move around recklessly. He Feng Yang personally came out to welcome him and led him inside the valley. There were over 10 Gu immortals, from the 10 great ancient sects, guarding inside the valley. Kid, don't do anything stupid inside. Think about long-term consequences, young man. Seeing He Feng Yang lead Fang Yuan in, other Gu immortals did not have nice expressions, they either threatened or advised. Sir, is Fang Yuan? A white-clothed female immortal came out of the group of immortals. You are Fairy Bai Qing. Fang Yuan's focused his gaze slightly, as he bowed without changing his expression. Fairy Bai Qing nodded at Fang Yuan, speaking in a warm tone, you are the person whom my daughter often mentioned. In this contest now over the ownership of the Grotto Heaven fragment, I hope you can be merciful, we will definitely repay you in the future. Fang Yuan had traded Daoist Gu with Spirit Affinity House many times, but had not seen Fairy Bai Qing once. But now, as it concerned the safety of her daughter, Feng Jin Huang, Fairy Bai Qing had no choice but to appear personally and request Fang Yuan to give her some face. Fang Yuan had his own plan, and accepted without any hesitation. Collaborating with your side has been a pleasant experience, Lady Bai Qing can be at ease. Fairy Bai Qing nodded in satisfaction. Many other Gu immortals snorted coldly. A cold gaze flashed past He Feng Yang's eyes. Go in. The others have already entered, your cultivation is the highest so you are the last one. He Feng Yang said heavily. Fang Yuan nodded and moved forward. The scenery inside the valley was peculiar like a mirage, what looked like bushes were waves blue like the sea. The scene did not have boundaries in common with each other, resembling a broken picture that was abruptly put together. This was naturally not a mirage, but a Grotto Heaven fragment world. The entrance was open, allowing it to be explored. Looking at Fang Yuan moving step by step inside, He Feng Yang could not put his heart at ease and reminded again, don't forget that place I told you about, you must occupy it. No worries. Fang Yuan waved his hand without turning back. Under everyone's gazes, his body completely entered the Grotto Heaven fragment. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 909, Advantage of having lower cultivation level. Chapter 909, Advantage of having lower cultivation level. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Fang Yuan looked over, seeing that the lake was shining in reflected light. The lake had a wide surface and was colored in many shades of blue. Once he entered Starry Sky Grotto Heaven Fragment World, he had landed in this blue lake. The lake had a huge surface area, there were several small islands near the center of the lake, growing with vegetation. Looking even further, beyond the blue lake, there were layers of mountain ridges, they were colored in indigo, gently mixing with the sky. Fang Yuan stood on the surface of the water like he was standing on the ground. From the perspective of a mortal Gu master, this ability to stand on water was very impressive. But it was already as simple as breathing to Fang Yuan now. Before entering deep into the Grotto Heaven fragment, Fang Yuan gave a final look below him. Only to see that below him, the blue lake cracked suddenly, like a cracked mirror. The surface of this lake was completely broken. Fang Yuan could see the outside world through this mirror. He saw that nameless valley in central continent, as well as the Gu immortals' figures. They were looking at Fang Yuan with complex gazes. Fang Yuan sneered internally, he turned around and leaped away from the lake, flying away. The Gu immortals from the 10 great ancient sects of central continent did not know that this was not the first time Fang Yuan had been inside Starry Sky Grotto Heaven. Starry Sky Grotto Heaven was very unique, it had 7 areas that were isolated, it was not like a normal Grotto Heaven. Evidently, Starry Sky Grotto Heaven had many space path Dao marks, and they were all very special as well. There were many desolate beasts in Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, there were even ancient desolate beasts, the zombie dragon guarding the 8-star hall, the walking meat tree, they left a deep impression on Fang Yuan. But after such intense combat, coupled with combat immortal sex looting, and starry sky grotto heavens shattering, there must be very few desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts left in the fragment worlds. Right now, there are 2 desolate beasts and 1 desolate plant in this grotto heaven fragment world. Feng Yuan flew through the sky as he recalled the information that Feng Yang had told him. These 2 desolate beasts and 1 desolate plant were a desolate beast dragonfish, hidden essence turtle and nether grass respectively. As long as one was a Gu immortal, they knew of dragonfish, they were very commonly used as food for immortal Gu. The overwhelming majority of mortal Gu could be fed with dragonfish meat if their specific food was of insufficient quantity, and a portion of the food for an immortal Gu could be substituted with it. Of course, immortal Gu were unique, their feeding requirements could be very bizarre, the effect of dragonfish was much lower. Furthermore, only desolate beast-level dragonfish meat could be used for their food. Among desolate beasts, the one with the lowest battle strength has to be the desolate beast dragonfish. According to rumors, dragonfish is not a species that originated normally from the world, it was a species artificially created via food path. The hidden essence turtle was a rare wisdom path desolate beast. It had weird habits, when it matures, it would stay at one place and stop moving. As time passes, after countless years, moss would grow on its body, it would turn to stone and become a giant false hill. Because it could conceal its aura and could hide itself well, it was hard to find. Only when it senses a huge danger would it relocate, it would not stop until it finds a resting place in which it is satisfied. After that, it would stop and hide in its shell, enduring the weather, be it wind, rain, snow or so on, once again. If he could capture this desolate beast, it was much better than killing it. Hidden Essence Turtle was a Wisdom Path desolate beast, it had an inborn connection to Wisdom Path, it was a spirit beast of Wisdom Path. It had the natural ability to find a safe place to live in. Many Wisdom Path Gu immortals would use the Hidden Essence Turtle to help them when they encounter difficulties in deductions. Feng Yuan inherited Dong Feng Chang Fan's Wisdom Path inheritance, there was also a way to use a freshly killed Hidden Essence Turtle shell to help in deductions. Evidently, capturing this Hidden Essence Turtle was useful for Gu immortals. Since it did not move and had strong defenses, combat immortal sect did not attack it hastily. The nether grass was similar, it was rooted to the ground and could not move, it had little threat as long as one did not get close to it. A stalk of nether grass was very useful to a soul path Gu immortal. And because nether grass contained large numbers of soul path Dao marks, as time passed, it would influence the surroundings, a wide range surrounding the nether grass would become a breeding ground for soul path Gu worms. Nether grass had an immense effect to modify the environment of a blessed land or grotto heaven. So for the same reason, combat immortal sect did not take this nether grass, keeping it until now. But they did not expect 7-star child to be so resolute, he would rather drag everyone down with him, causing starry sky grotto heaven to shatter and fall. This situation was already out of combat immortal sect's control, the fragment worlds of this starry sky grotto heaven became the point of negotiation for the 10 great ancient sects of central continent, they decided on certain timings and entered to harvest the resources within. Feng Yang represented immortal crane sect and before entering the grotto heaven fragment world, he gave Feng Yuan several missions. 3 of them were regarding the dragonfish, nether grass, and hidden essence turtle. If you can capture all 3 of them alive, that would be best. According to the agreement, you can get 1/3 of the value of what you obtain. Feng Yang told Feng Yuan. Even though Feng Yuan was a subordinate of Immortal Crane sect on paper, this was not the case, as a person directly involved, Feng Yang was very aware of this. Thus, he knew that in order to get him to work hard, he could only arouse Feng Yuan's interest through benefits. Even though Feng Yuan was only a rank 6 bottom-tier immortal zombie, he had a huge advantage against these 3 desolate beasts or plants. Because Feng Yuan not only had his own immortal Gu, he also had the immortal Gu that Immortal Crane sect had specially lent to him. Having immortal Gu was a completely different level of battle strength compared to not having immortal Gu. Even though the dragonfish, hidden essence turtle, and nether grass were very strong beings, they did not have immortal Gu. If they did, they would be walking treasure troves, Gu immortals would have attacked already, be it 7-star child immortal zombie, or combat immortal sect, how could they not strike? Normally speaking, inside grotto heavens and blessed lands, there were no wild immortal Gu. Because once a wild immortal Gu was formed, the Gu immortal would take them away for their own use. After all, leaving a wild immortal Gu behind had no benefits to the blessed land, it would instead cause the Gu immortal's control of the blessed land or grotto heaven to fall. If the desolate beast rampages, that would be problematic. Furthermore, Starry Sky Grotto Heaven's owner, Seven-Star Child, had awoken long ago. As the owner, how could he not know if there were wild immortal Gu? Even if Seven-Star Child was kept busy and had no time, Starry Sky Grotto Heaven was attacked by Combat Immortal Sect. They had searched thoroughly. Unless it was a very special immortal Gu and could conceal itself well, it would not be there up until this point. According to the map, the dragonfish is here in this blue lake, near the small island at the center of the lake. Fong Yuan flew in the sky, his gaze shined, his greatest interest among the three was in the desolate beast dragonfish. Of course, dragonfish live together in large numbers. Around the desolate beast dragonfish, there were many mortal dragonfish. These were all an enticing fortune to Fong Yuan. To think that I would have my second desolate beast dragonfish so quickly. Since I can take 1/3 of the gains, I will choose the dragonfish. Fong Yuan thought of this and felt a bit of joy internally. Meanwhile, on a small island on the blue lake, a group of Gu masters from Heaven's Envy Manor were looking at the lake in front of them with much annoyance. There were 5 people in this group, almost all of them had rank 5 cultivation, except one young Gu master who was at rank 4 peak stage. This youngster was called Wei Wuxian. He was the head of the elite disciples that represented Heaven's Envy Manor. He was infatuated with Fairy Bai Xia and had once fought with Fang Zheng, but lost. Fang Zheng gave him some face and admitted it was a draw. Since he kept his reputation, he had a sense of gratitude towards Fang Zheng, feeling like he owed the latter a favor. He was originally rank for middle stage, but in this contest for resources, Heaven's Envy Manor took action to specially raise his cultivation level to rank 4 peak stage. On one hand, they were training the next generation of disciples, they were the hopes of the future, on the other hand, they were lacking in manpower. Just now, to explore all the fragments of Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent had engaged in fierce competition. Seven-Star Child was very ruthless, he self-detonated Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, but he controlled the explosion very well. Almost no Gu immortals could enter the fragment worlds, only their disciples could enter and explore it. As has been mentioned before, these Grotto Heaven fragment worlds had sparse Dao marks, they were torn and broken, like houses that were going to collapse, they could only exist for a period of time. Meanwhile, Gu immortals had Dao marks, they were like giants. Forcefully entering the fragment worlds was like giants entering a small house, the only result would be the house breaking and all the resources inside being destroyed. In his past life, Fong Yuan became a Blood Path Gu immortal and created the Bloodwing Demon sect. When Starry Sky Grotto Heaven was destroyed, he also directed mortal Gu masters in the demonic sect to enter the fragment worlds in place of him and search for resources. But now, why could Fong Yuan enter it? Speaking of this, he somewhat did not know whether to laugh or cry at the reason. It was because Fong Yuan had bottom-tier cultivation level among Gu immortals, he had few strength path Dao marks in his body, and because of vaguely familiar face, he continued to lose strength path Dao marks. One of the core immortal Gu of vaguely familiar face was Eat Strength Immortal Gu. Changing the Gu immortal's regional aura involved using Eat Strength in reverse, to expend strength path Dao marks. Even though he had the giant horned sheep and other strength path desolate beasts to increase his number of strength path Dao marks, he had been disguising himself a lot recently. After summing up his gains and losses, there was a limit to how many strength path Dao marks he could gain. Thus, Fong Yuan could enter while other Gu immortals could not. He had just reached the upper limits of what the fragment world could stand. There were very few people who could be so pitiful in their cultivation level after becoming a Gu immortal. Most importantly, because of his identity, Immortal Crane's sect could make use of him. This was a competition among the 10 great ancient sects. If Fong Yuan was not a subsidiary force of Immortal Crane's sect, he would be an outsider Gu immortal, he would not be allowed to enter by the other sects. This was the righteous path. They paid close attention to rules. They were not like the demonic path, who looked at who had the bigger fist, by competing with force against force, or seeing who was more ruthless and despicable. The first rule of the demonic path was the absence of rules. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9-10, Grabbing the Dragonfish. Chapter 9-10, Grabbing the Dragonfish. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Damn this ancient soul sect, they actually caused a commotion with the desolate beast dragonfish to obstruct us. At this moment, on the small island at the center of the lake, the group from Heaven's Envy Manors was trapped, they could not advance. In front of them, waves were rumbling, tides were rising, the water was grand and treacherous. The 5 Gu masters from Heaven's Envy Manor frowned tightly, looking at the lake, they felt anger and helplessness. Through the lake water, they could see vaguely that there was a huge monster swimming around in the depths of the lake. Each time the tail moved, currents would be created as huge tides surfaced. In fact, sometimes, its tough fish head would ram into the bottom of the small island. Boom! 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 Each time the dragonfish attacked, there would be a loud sound, followed by tremors below everyone's feet. The people from Heaven's Envy Manor were trapped on this small island, looking at the waves in front of them, their faces were pale, they were helpless, there was nothing they could do. Desolate beast dragonfish were usually peaceful and rarely went into a frenzy. But earlier, the Gu masters from Ancient Souls sect had used some method to make this desolate beast dragonfish go into madness. It was in a berserk and rampaging state, it had lost its mind and natural disposition. The Gu masters from Heaven's Envy Manor had the ability to climb mountains and move across bodies of water, but they were only mortals with limited primeval essence. Under the current situation, they could not move at all, it was too dangerous. Ancient Souls sect could actually influence the desolate beast dragonfish, they must have used an immortal technique from the sect. We of Heaven's Envy Manor are also from one of the 10 great ancient sects, we cannot lose to Ancient Souls sect. Elder Zhu Ning, let's use our immortal method as well. While they were helpless, a Gu master from Heaven's Envy Manor couldn't help but suggest this. Hearing that there was an immortal method, the other Gu masters showed inspired expressions, light shining in their eyes. Elder Zhu Ning, who had the method, frowned, he sighed bitterly, if I could use it, I would have done so already, why would I wait until now? He told everyone his difficulties. As it turned out, before this trip, Zhu Ning was called by a supreme elder and was entrusted with an immortal Gu and some immortal essence. But this immortal Gu was used for defense, it would not help in this situation to get rid of the dragonfish. The sect gave you an immortal Gu. What does the immortal Gu look like? I have never seen one before. Quick, let us see it and broaden our visions. Zhu Ning's frank admission made everyone intensely curious. At once, they forget about the problem in front of them, they wanted to see the brilliance of the immortal Gu. Zhu Ning smiled bitterly again, I will speak honestly, I only took a hurried glance at this immortal Gu before Lord Supreme Elder placed it in my body. Right now, I don't even know where the immortal Gu is in my body, not to mention attempting to retrieve it. Everyone was very disappointed, they sighed in unison. Only Wei Wuxiang's eyes shined brightly, he said in admiration, it would be great if I could obtain an immortal Gu that belongs to me one day. The other 4 old Gu masters looked at Wei Wuxiang and either smiled bitterly or shook their heads. Wei Wuxiang was too young. Young people like to dream, this was natural. But only after many experiences would they understand that dreams and reality were different, like these 4 old Gu masters. Who would not want to have their own immortal Gu, who would not want to become a high and mighty immortal? But immortal and mortal were worlds apart. Reality was cruel, countless people lost their youthfulness, countless people's dreams were broken. How many people could really become immortals? The leader, Zhu Ning, sighed, for now, we have no better way, we can only wait. When the dragonfish calms down, we will set off. But this way, the other 9 sects will get all the good stuff. We will only have leftovers. A Gu master asked worriedly. What else can we do? Zhu Ning sighed, but he did not forget to raise the morale. This is not entirely a bad thing. Let them go and compete first, we can take the chance for now to gather our strength. Even though immortal Gu are incredibly powerful, they need corresponding immortal essence to activate. Their immortal essence will be limited, let them exhaust their resources in competing with each other. During the later stages, we will have more strength than them. Once he said that, everyone's expressions changed, their dejected moods recovered slightly. However, I have something very important to remind you of. Zhu Ning's had a serious expression. No matter how much strength we preserve, there are two people we cannot offend. One is Spirit Affinity House's Feng Jin Huang, the other is Immortal Crane Sect's Fang Yuan. Why? Feng Jin Huang and Fang Yuan are two geniuses of my generation, but each of them are only single individuals. Right now, us 10 sects all have 5 members each, we all have mysterious immortal methods, why should we be afraid of those two? Wei Wuxiang was unclear of the truth, he asked somewhat skeptically. That is because you do not know the hidden details. Zhu Ning's gaze was heavy, he looked at the surrounding Gu masters and said, I learned about this shocking news from the sect before we came. Feng Jin Huang has a noble upbringing, her parents are both Gu immortals, moreover, they are immensely powerful beings even among Gu immortals. What shocking immortal methods do you think that such a person would have? So that's it. Wei Wuxiang was startled. The others also showed shocked expressions. Zhu Ning continued, but compared to Feng Jin Huang, that Fang Yuan is even scarier. Don't tell me his background is even greater than that of Feng Jin Huang. Someone asked in suspicion. Zhu Ning frowned, I am also not sure of the specific details, but the sect had specially told this to me, that Fang Yuan is far scarier than Feng Jin Huang, we should avoid him at all costs, we should not contest with him. Even though Fang Yuan is the #1 genius of my generation, he's not that scary, right? Wei Wuxiang was suspicious. Don't tell me the immortal method that Immortal Crane's sect gave to him is the strongest among the 10 sects. The other Gu masters tried to analyze. Zhu Ning shook his head, I only know that Immortal Crane's sect sent Fang Yuan here alone, think about it, what does this mean? It seems that Immortal Crane's sect is very confident in Fang Yuan, they believe that with his strength alone, he can deal with all of us. Arrogant. They are looking down on us. Immortal Crane's sect are not fools, the sect also told us to avoid Fang Yuan, there seems to be reasons behind this. We should act according to the sect's warnings. That is not necessarily the case, as the saying goes, 2 fists cannot rival 4 palms, even if Fang Yuan is the strongest, he would inevitably cause the other sects to collaborate in resistance. The result is still unknown. The Gu masters discussed. They talked one after another. Some were stable and conservative, some were indignant, some wanted to collaborate with other sects. Right at this moment, a shrill sound came from the sky. Everyone frowned, Wei Wuxiang even covered his ears. The 5 Gu masters looked over and saw that in the sky, there was a figure tearing across space. This person was extremely fast, sonic booms could be heard as they traveled. In just a breath's time, he flew over from a distance away. When he was above the small island, he stopped. He went from quick movement to extreme stillness, the 5 Gu masters from Heaven's Envy Manor felt this was very abrupt and sudden. Who is it? He can fly at such a high altitude. So fast, is this a human or a monster? Looking at the person, it seems to be Fang Yuan. Everyone was shocked and subconsciously had their mouths open. The gusts of wind blew and entered their mouths, even forcing them to shut their eyes. This wind was created when Fang Yuan flew over, it was very strong. Fang Yuan stood in the air as he looked around. Huge waves, a small island, dragonfish, Gu masters, he understood everything that was happening in an instant. He placed his attention on the dragonfish. There were 5 Gu masters on the small island, they were not worth his attention at all. The wind was only a gust, it came and left swiftly. The 5 Gu masters quickly opened their eyes, looking at Fang Yuan who was in the air, they were very nervous. It seems that this dragonfish is rampaging due to the effects of a certain soul path or wisdom path technique. Fang Yuan guessed as he stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion in front of him. Boom! Under everyone's shocked gazes, a strength path giant hand flew out and entered the water grandly. But the thing was, when the strength path giant hand entered the water, there were no waves that were created. Instead, the water split apart when the giant hand descended. It was as if the water in the lake was cooperating with Fang Yuan. This was the Strength Path Immortal Gu pulling water. It had taken effect after being fused into Strength Path Giant Hand. The water in the lake did not obstruct Fang Yuan in capturing the dragonfish, it became an aid instead. With the dragonfish rampaging and losing its senses, it did not try to escape, it made Fang Yuan's attempting at capturing it easier. Roar! The dragonfish opened its mouth, emitting a dragon's roar. On the two sides of the fish's mouth, there were two long dragon whiskers, they were lashing around like whips. The entire fish body struggled intensely, but the strength path giant hand was stable like Mount Tai, it did not budge at all, like an iron structure. Under Fang Yuan's control, the strength path giant hand grabbed and captured the dragonfish, pulling it out of the water. The 5 Gu masters from Heaven's Envy Manor were all dumbfounded, they were shocked and in despair at seeing the process of Fang Yuan capturing the dragonfish and putting it into his own immortal aperture. After capturing this desolate beast dragonfish, Fang Yuan was not satisfied, he turned towards the ordinary dragonfish. Dragonfish lived in groups, there were dragonfish all over this lake. This time, Fang Yuan activated pulling water immortal Gu, lumps of water was pulled up, countless dragonfish that were inside the water were thrown into his immortal aperture. The group from Heaven's Envy Manor were staring, still as statues. They would surely never forget this scene in their lives. Only until Fang Yuan finished his collection and flew away did these Gu masters jolt to awareness. They were all covered in sweat, Wei Wuxiang was sprawled on the ground, sitting with his body limp and in shock. They had finally understood what their sect meant, and the helplessness they were feeling. Dealing with such a person is beyond our abilities. Oh heavens, I was trying to collaborate with others to deal with Fang Yuan earlier. Such overwhelming might, did he become an immortal already? Everyone was scared to pieces. The dragonfish was gone, they could continue on their journey now. But the scene earlier was simply too shocking for them, even though they did not move at all and were only looking, the Gu masters from Heaven's Envy Manor were breathing roughly, they felt extremely fatigued in both body and mind. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.